Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Part 280 based on novel. So let's start. Very few in the Sun Moon Empire knew that Xu Yunhan had tagged along with them. The reason why Juzi brought him with her was because she couldn't leave him alone in the Empire. After all, she had left with the strongest fighting force in the Empire. Furthermore, something had happened to her son before. She was afraid of a repeat of the incident, which prompted her to bring him along with her. In her opinion, he was very safe with such a powerful Soul Engineer Legion led by Elder Kong personally. However, who knew that the situation would be like this now? Hui Yuhao was stunned for a moment after listening to Xu Yunhan's words. He couldn't help but think of the time when he first met him. He lowered his head and saw the beautiful, black short hair that Xu Yunhan had. His big black eyes were very bright, and his skin was just like his mother's, very smooth and delicate. He looked elegant in his outfit. The smile on his face was even more captivating. He was only 6 or 7, but he was not frantic at all. Rather, he was curious as he lifted his head to look at Hui Yuhao. Could Hui Yuhao really lay his hands on this kid? It was a certain no. It was impossible. However, he had no choice after being forced by Juzi. Juzi shuddered as she screamed, "Hui Yuhao, you must not touch Yunhan." Hui Yuhao took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then agree to my conditions. Leave with your people and return to the Sun Moon Empire. Juzi's eyes flashed and she gritted her teeth. She was already a little speechless as she looked at Hui Yuhao. Revenge had been her life's goal. However, there were only 2 important people in her life. One was this man, who had disappeared for 3 years. The other was the little kid in his arms. Hui Yuhao was still less important. After all, she didn't belong to him. However, Xu Yunhan was her only son. He was her only reason to live. Juzi didn't even dare to imagine what would happen if something happened to him. Perhaps she would really use the blood of the continent to pay respects to her son. Even though she knew that Hui Yuhao had always been very soft-hearted and wouldn't do anything to her son, she didn't dare to take the gamble. It was too scary. Why? Why must you protect the White Tiger Duke? Why don't you let me kill him? You should know that it's better for my empire to rule the continent compared to what's going on now. I'm no longer the one who can make the decision anymore. Even if you threaten me, Juzi could not carry on any further as she spoke until this point. This was because she was terrified to see Hui Yuhao caressing her son's head. Given his abilities, he just needed an instant to kill him. No, Yuhao, don't do it. Don't harm Yunhan. Juzi begged. Kong Deming was already very grim now. Xu Yunhan wasn't just the emperor. He was also his disciple. Although he was only 6, his potential was already recognized and well loved by Kong Deming. He believed that he could nurture a great emperor for the empire. Now that he was in the enemy's hands, the circumstances had changed completely. Moreover, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion had been wiped out. It was a complete turnaround. Hui Yuhao's abilities were simply too terrifying. No one from the Sun Moon Empire could fight him. Under this circumstance, no one could possibly save Xu Yunhan. After listening to Juzi's words, Hui Yuhao turned his head to look at the White Tiger Duke. The White Tiger Duke was also staring back at him. He revealed a gentle gaze in his eyes, whereas Hui Yuhao appeared very conflicted. Do you know why I'm protecting him? Why won't I let you kill him? I'll tell you in front of everyone. Hui Yuhao took in a deep breath. Xu Yunhan was very obedient in his arms. He didn't struggle at all. Because Hui Yuhao turned around again and glared at Juzi. He is my biological father. When he said this, it was like a bomb that was dropped on 2 people. Although he wasn't very loud, it was very clear in every part of the battlefield because of the conduction of his immense spiritual power. On the city walls, Dai Yuehan, Dai Huabin and Dai Lorli were all jolted awake. They also heard everything Hui Yuhao said. Apart from Dai Lawley, Dai Yuehang and Dai Huabin were both stunned. This was especially so for Dai Huabin. Ever since he had entered Shrek Academy, he had been chasing and challenging one person. No matter what, he wouldn't have expected this. He didn't expect Hui Yuhao to be his brother. In terms of age, Hui Yuhao should be his younger brother. Zhu Zi was in a daze. She looked at Hui Yuhao, and her mouth was already subconsciously wide open. There were many thoughts in her mind, but she didn't expect this to be the case. How could this be the case? The White Tiger Duke, the person she hated to the core, was actually Hui Yuhao's father. Didn't that mean that Dai Hao was? Zhu Zi felt as if cold water had been poured on her head when she developed this thought. She staggered in the air and almost couldn't control her body. She fell just like that. The White Tiger Duke was equally as astonished as he drifted to Hui Yuhao's side. What are you talking about? The White Tiger Duke's voice had completely changed. In his heart, this young man was one of the most powerful individuals in the younger generation of Soul Masters. He was the most outstanding person in Shrek. Because of him, the Star Luo Empire had managed to avert a few disasters. Did he actually mention that he's my son? That's right. You are my father. Hui Yuhao turned to look at Dai Hao. He was no longer calm, and his voice was shaking a little. Due to his emotional undulations, an indescribable sense of sorrow also influenced everyone around him. However, you are also my enemy at the same time. Hui Yuhao was already very pale when he said this. The White Tiger Duke's voice cracked as he asked, "No, this is impossible. How could you possibly be my son?" Hui Yuhao took in a deep breath and tried to suppress his emotions. In that case, let me remind you that my mom's surname is Hua. You should recognize that. As he spoke, Hui Yuhao lifted his hand and retrieved a dagger from his storage-type soul tool before passing it to the White Tiger Duke. This is a gift of love that you gave my mom. I hope you haven't forgotten. The White Tiger Duke paused for a moment. He was fixated on the White Tiger dagger in Hui Yuhao's hand. He took it subconsciously, but his hands were shaking. Yuna's kid. Yuna, she actually bore me a child. Didn't she die of sickness when I went out for an expedition? How did this happen? The person who told you about my mom's death must be your wife, Hui Yuhao said coldly. In your heart, my mom must have had died some 20-odd years ago. Dai Hao was in a daze as he looked at the dagger. I was busy with war. I couldn't return even after learning Yuna was dead. Things were very tense at the front line. I didn't return to the Duke's mansion for 10 years. When I returned, she was already in ashes. The only thing I could do was refurbish her tomb. You're actually Yuna's son. You shouldn't be called Hui Yuhao then. You should be called Dai Yuhao. Hui Yuhao shook his head with force and raged, "No, I'm not Dai Hao. I'm Hui Yuhao. I'm only Hui Yuhao. I'm my mother's son, not your son. Have you taken care of me for a single day? Did you even know I existed? When I was young, I had to watch you from afar. You even returned then, but why didn't you go and see my mom? Why did you let your wife bully her?" I returned? Every time I did so, I had to leave hastily. Things were simply too hectic in the military. Yes, I neglected Yuna. Dai Hao turned pale. Even when he faced Zhu Zi's sword, he didn't look as lost as he was right now. Hui Yuhao turned his head suddenly and tried to hold back his tears. After we deal with this matter, I will get back everything you owe my mother from the Duke's mansion, you and your wife. As he spoke, Hui Yuhao turned to Zhu Zi. Do you understand? You should. No matter how much I'm unwilling to admit it, his blood flows in me. Although he harmed my mother, he's still a hero of the Star Luo Empire. I'm not ashamed because his blood flows in me. No matter what, I won't let him die by your hands. Now you should understand why I'm protecting him, right? After he finally vented everything he had kept in his heart for so many years, Hui Yuhao felt relieved. Everything was about to be over. After he defeated the Sun Moon Empire's army, he would return to the Duke's mansion. Tang Wutong was close to Hui Yuhao and grabbed onto his arm. She grabbed his arm and used the warmth of her palms to comfort him. She was the only one who wasn't astonished by his words. This was because she already knew. He still deeply recalled the vow he had made before he left the Duke's mansion more than 10 years ago. If not for that vow, he wouldn't have trained so tirelessly. Although his hatred had diminished, he still believed he needed to deal with his mother's matter. A bitter look surfaced on Zhu Zi's face. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. You are actually his son. Yuhao, I have to thank you. You are right, I really shouldn't kill him. No matter how much I hate him, I can't kill him. Return my son to me. Return Yunhan to me. I'll promise you anything. I'll pull the army back. We'll return the land we've taken from the Star Luo Empire to them. However, both the Heavenly Soul and Doling empires have long been occupied. We can't return them. They are already more than half the Sun Moon Empire's land. I have no right to return them. What I can do is to return the Star Luo Empire. It's already the most I can do. The White Tiger Duke was slightly shocked when he heard Zhu Zi's words. It was already a surprise that the Sun Moon Empire was willing to return their territories. As for the Doling and Heavenly Soul empires, their royal families were completely powerless. Even if their empires were returned to them, they were no longer capable of running them. Undoubtedly, this was the best that could be achieved. After pondering for a moment, Hui Yuhao nodded and said, "All right, we'll follow your idea. Retreat with your army and leave the Star Luo Empire. However, since you betrayed our promise, I'll need you to pay for it 100 times more. Within the next 1,000 years, the Sun Moon Empire must not invade the Star Luo Empire." Zhu Zi sighed, "All right, I can promise that. However, we'll counterattack if the Star Luo Empire attacks us. Return my child to me. We'll leave immediately." She finally compromised. It had to do with Elder Kong. This was their bottom line that Elder Kong had suggested to her. As Hui Yuhao and Tang Wutong were simply too strong and there were stationary interference shells, the entire Sun Moon Empire army might actually be wiped out if Hui Yuhao decided to attack. They could only leave this place first before finding a way to invent a soul tool strong enough to deal with him. Hui Yuhao said, "Leave first. As for Yunhan, I'll take care of him. You've already betrayed your promise once. How do you expect me to trust you again? After 10 years, I'll return him to you as long as the Sun Moon Empire remains obedient." "What?" Zhu Zi exclaimed. "You're going to take Yunhan away for 10 years? No, impossible. Impossible." After hearing that Hui Yuhao wanted to leave with Xu Yunhan, Zhu Zi panicked. Hui Yuhao dealt with this in a composed manner. "You betrayed our trust and started a war. We can't trust you anymore. Xu Yunhan will follow me for the next 10 years, and we'll see what happens next. You can leave now." "No, you can't do that. Return my son. Return my son." As she screamed, Zhu Zi immediately increased her speed and rushed out. She was already not too far from Hui Yuhao. She also acted very suddenly. Her human-shaped soul tool was the best she could wear. Once its soul thrusters were activated, she almost instantly teleported in front of Hui Yuhao. She reached out for Xu Yunhan. Hui Yuhao lifted his hand, and a strong force restrained Zhu Zi. She was completely restricted. Right now, Kong Deming knew that it was too late to save her. Hui Yuhao spoke coldly as he looked at Zhu Zi from close range. "Leave with your people. I won't retract my decision after I've made it. You must pay the price for your mistake. I trusted you so much before, and even told you about my closed-door cultivation. How did you treat me in return? Now I can't bring myself to trust you again. I won't harm you. Leave. Return my son. Return my son to me. I can't let him leave with you. In your eyes, he's the emperor of the Sun Moon Empire. You won't guide him properly. He is my last hope in life. Yuhao, I beg you. Return my son to me. Return him, Zhu Zi begged. If this were the past, Hu Yuhao would have gone soft-hearted. However, the entire Douling Empire had been crushed because of her betrayal. Even the Star Luo Empire was almost annihilated, and the White Tiger Duke had almost died at her hands. Hu Yuhao hardened his stance and forcibly shook his head. Leave. There's nothing more to say. No. Zhu Zi shouted. Hu Yuhao, you can't do this. You can't do this. Yunhan is your son. Space seemed to collapse. Just when Zhu Zi said this, space within a region spanning 100 meters in diameter collapsed. Her voice was completely drowned in that space. Only those within this region heard what she said. Time and space seemed to stop at this moment. Hu Yuhao and Tang Wutong were both astonished. So was the White Tiger Duke. Their expressions froze. Zhu Zi was still sobbing. Little Yunhan was stunned. He lifted his head and looked at Hu Yuhao. This strange scene just paused in the sky like that. A dignified voice sounded all of a sudden and echoed in their ears. I told you before, never reveal this secret. If you reveal it, I'll take your son's life. It seems like you've forgotten my words. In that case. A bright beam of golden light shone. Hu Yuhao, Tang Wutong, Dai Hao, Zhu Zi, and Xu Yunhan only felt as if everything was spinning in front of them. In the next instant, they came to another place. When everything became clear once again, they were astonished to discover that they were above a golden patch of clouds. Even with Hu Yuhao and Tang Wutong's cultivations, they couldn't sense where they were right now. It was just that they weren't thinking of this at the moment. Hu Yuhao's gaze was fixated on Zhu Zi. He lost his voice as he asked, What did you say? Whose son is this? Zhu Zi was already pale white by now. The dignified voice left her horrified. She quickly grabbed Xu Yunhan. After this, she kneeled down. No, please, I beg of you. Don't harm my son. It wasn't intentional. I was just afraid that he would harm my son. Please don't hurt my son. Hu Yuhao only managed to turn around right now. He also unleashed his spiritual detection. However, he was stunned to realize that he couldn't sense any changes around him, even with his immense spiritual power. What's going on? Where is this place? Hu Yuhao was stupefied as he tried to make sense of everything around him. He couldn't understand what was going on. At this moment, a beam of golden light shone in front of everyone. That dignified voice spoke once again. Aren't you afraid of harming someone else's kid if you are so afraid of harming your own? I've already tolerated this fellow for a long time. But heaven is benevolent. However, you still blurted it out. Hatred has blinded you and caused you to lose control of your emotions. You're walking towards destruction. I'll grant you your wish since that's the case. A golden figure slowly became clearer and clearer. A handsome man who seemed to be only 20 years old appeared in front of everyone. He had long flowing blue hair that drooped all the way down to his feet. If not for his burly figure and broad shoulders, one might mistake him for a lady. There were ripples on his long blue robe. Upon closer look, one would be captivated by the ocean blue on his robe. His entire soul might even be absorbed into this ocean. While the guy seemed to be only 20, the look in his eyes was very deep. It looked very hollow, but it seemed to contain everything at the same time. At times, there would be a purplish, moving flash that felt as if he could kill with a blink of an eye. He was carrying a huge golden trident with his right hand. This trident was very familiar to Hu Yuhao. He was Daddy. Tang Wutong suddenly shouted. Her figure flashed, and she leapt into the embrace of that young man. The blue-haired youth opened his arms wide and hugged her. There was a benevolent look on his face. He gently caressed Tang Wutong's pinkish blue hair. My dear daughter, don't worry. Daddy won't let you suffer. Tang Wutong turned around and looked at Hu Yuhao. Right now, the look in her eyes was already different. She was intelligent. From Zhu Zi's words and her father's rage, she knew that her claim was probably true. Daddy, does this kid really belong to Yu Hao and Ju Zi? Her voice was trembling when she said this. The blue-haired youth nodded. That's right. Tang Wutong started to tear up. She looked at Hui Yu Hao and seemed to be shaking. She spoke as if she was heartbroken. Why? Hui Yu Hao's mouth was already wide open as he tried to explain himself. Wutong, listen to me. I don't know either. It's impossible that he belongs to me. Impossible. I've never done it with Ju Zi. I've never. I admit to liking her before knowing you were a girl. However, we've only been friends. We've never been together at all. It's not real. This kid isn't mine. The blue-haired youth laughed coldly. Not yours? Xu Yunhan, do you know why he's called Xu Yunhan? It's because his name is compatible with yours. Do you really think it's a coincidence? Ju Zi, tell him. Is this his child? Ju Zi hugged Xu Yunhan tightly. When she looked at Hui Yu Hao before turning to Tang Wutong and that blue-haired youth, she was already so dazed until she couldn't speak. The person with the dignified voice was actually Tang Wutong's father. No wonder he forced her not to speak. He didn't want his daughter to know anything. I beg you, please don't hurt my child. I beg you. I'm only a poor mother. I'm only afraid of my son being hurt. Please, I beg you. Ju Zi didn't explain, and only kowtowed towards the blue-haired youth while hugging Xu Yunhan. Tears flowed down Tang Wutong's face. Her eyes were already red when she looked at Hui Yu Hao. No woman could forgive her man for having a child with another woman. No matter how much she liked him, she could only feel sorrowful and enraged right now. The blue-haired youth looked coldly at Ju Zi. You turned a deaf ear to my words. You shall pay the price. As he spoke, he lifted his hand. A streak of blue light flashed, and Xu Yunhan disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in his hands. Ju Zi frantically tried to leap over. However, space had been frozen. The blue-haired youth looked coldly at her. He already had his hand around Xu Yunhan's neck. Let go of him. A furious scream sounded. A figure charged forward and smacked a pair of tiger palms towards the blue-haired youth. It was the White Tiger Duke, Dai Hao. From the earlier conversation, he knew that the kid probably belonged to Hui Yu Hao. Although he didn't know why Hui Yu Hao suddenly became his son, he knew that if Hui Yu Hao was his son, Xu Yunhan was his biological grandson. No wonder the War God Empress said that she can't kill me earlier. Right now, there was no longer the Sun Moon or Star Luo Empire in his mind. There was only his biological grandson. How could he watch as his grandson was captured by someone else and was about to be killed? That blue-haired youth focused his gaze, and the White Tiger Duke froze in place. At the same time, Tang Wutong suddenly hugged him tightly. Daddy, don't do it. The kid is innocent. Don't harm him. When the blue-haired youth heard her words, the look in his eyes turned gentler. He sighed, but my daughter is innocent too. Who's taking pity on you? My poor little seven. Tang Wutong bit her lower lip. Daddy, let's go home. I've missed you, and I've missed Mommy. As she spoke, she started to cry out loud. Wutong, Wutong. Hui Yu Hao only reacted from his astonishment at this moment. He wanted to leap forward, but the blue-haired youth glared at him, and he froze in place too. After this, blue lights flashed, and the blue-haired youth and Tang Wutong turned into two projections before they vanished into the golden clouds. A dignified voice echoed in the sky. The Star Luo Empire must be returned, and the Sun Moon Empire must be remained the Heaven Do Empire. Otherwise, HMPH. Xu Yunhan drifted in the sky, and was immediately caught by Ju Zi, who regained her mobility. Little Yunhan wasn't afraid. His eyes were still open wide. He was looking at this and that, he was curious. Of course he wasn't afraid. He didn't sense any killing intent from that blue-haired youth earlier. Hui Yu Hao suddenly turned to Ju Zi and roared furiously, Why? Why did you say he's my son? How can it be? How? Juzi hugged Xu Yunhan and stood up. She coldly looked at Hui Yuhao. No matter what you believe, he's your child. Do you really think I'd give birth for just anyone? Back then, I knew Xu Tianran wanted me to inseminate myself with someone else's sperm. That was why I was already prepared. Do you remember when we were in the extreme north? Just when you fell unconscious in my arms. I'm not so despicable as to take advantage of you. I only use a soul tool to steal a seedling from you. After that, I inseminated myself with your seedling when Xu Tianran forced me. That's right. Yunhan is your flesh and blood. However, I have nothing to do with you. Neither does he. He's just a product of your genes. What have you done for him? Hui Yuhao was stunned as he looked at Ju Zi. He also took a look at Xu Yunhan. Suddenly, he was very conflicted and emotional. No matter what, he hadn't expected things to turn out this way. Everything that had happened before replayed in his mind right now. He quickly recalled what had happened. Yes. He had been unconscious in Ju Zi's arms for quite a while back then. It must have happened then. No wonder he felt so drawn to Xu Yunhan the first time he saw him. When he thought of the moment when Xu Yunhan called him Daddy for the first time, Hui Yuhao didn't know what to say anymore. Ju Zi hugged her son tightly and let her tears flow. She said coldly, I only took your seedling. As for the harm I've caused to you, I can only apologize. However, what I want to tell you is this. This kid has nothing to do with you. He's my son, and the future emperor of the Sun Moon Empire. He'll take the surname, Xu, not yours. You should know why I was afraid that you would hurt him. If you really hurt him, you would have regretted it for the rest of your life. The White Tiger Duke looked at Hui Yuhao before turning to Ju Zi. Suddenly, he didn't know what to say. Everything that had happened today was completely out of his imagination. Hui Yuhao shut his eyes in pain. Right now, he was completely confused. It wasn't easy for him to undergo closed-door cultivation for 3 years and become an ultimate Deluo. He even turned the situation around and prevented the Star Luo Empire from being wiped out. However, his lover had left him for something like this. Before Tang Wutong left, the sadness that she portrayed made him feel as if someone had cut his heart out. He couldn't even explain because he didn't know what was going on. Was he supposed to blame Ju Zi? He had no energy to do so anymore. He had a son, but he was still a virgin. Yunhan, unleash your martial soul. Ju Zi suddenly said to little Yunhan. Yes. Xu Yunhan unleashed a gentle streak of soul power. This caused Hui Yuhao to reopen his eyes. The White Tiger Duke also turned his attention to him. A white glow shone from Xu Yunhan's body. His eyes turned brighter. What was strange was that he had 2 pupils in his eyes. He ballooned slightly in size, and a vertical eye silently opened on his forehead. His hair also turned half black and half white, and looked just like the patterns on a tiger's skin. This was 3-eyed white tiger? What kind of martial soul was this? The White Tiger Duke was astonished when he saw the double pupils in his eyes. At this instant, he was astonished to discover that the heroism in his heart had ceased to exist. He was certain that this kid was his descendant. Hui Yuhao also shook a little. He hadn't inherited the white tiger, but there were sunray patterns around the vertical eye. The aura that belonged to his spirit eyes and the eye of Azura couldn't be faked. This kid only had one martial soul, but it contained the strength of the white tiger and the spiritual undulations of his spirit eyes. It was a powerful mutated martial soul. The surrounding golden light slowly dimmed, and space distorted. Xu Yunhan regained his original look and remained in his mother's arms. He had allowed space to change, but was mostly fixated on Hui Yuhao. He was a little curious, but was also a little weirded out as he looked at him. It was still outside Star Luo City, and it was still above the Sun Moon Empire army, but everything was frozen. Time and space had come to a complete standstill. No matter how confused Hui Yuhao was, he could still guess the identity of his father-in-law. He had to be a god. Apart from a god, who could possibly control time and space? Originally, he had thought that he was the peak of this world. However, he was still too far off compared to his father-in-law. So Wutong is the daughter of a god. No wonder she's so talented. Right now, he couldn't think of anything more. This was because the sealed time and space were reactivated at the next instant. No matter whether it was the army, those from Shrek Academy, the Tang sect or the three empires, they didn't notice anything amiss. To them, they only lost their awareness for a bit earlier. After that, everything returned to normal. Only those who were sharp noticed that Tang Wutong was missing. Juzi looked a little pale. Her son was already back in her arms. She flashed and widened the gap between her and Hui Yuhao. Hui Yuhao looked at her weirdly. Right now, he didn't know how to deal with the current situation. I'll keep my promise. I will. This time, God is the witness. Juzi muttered. Hui Yuhao nodded forcefully. Juzi took in a deep breath and turned to the generals of the Sun Moon Empire. She shouted, "Retreat!" The words of the blue-haired youth were deeply imprinted in her mind. Hui Yuhao also believed that she wouldn't dare to go back on her word now that a god was their witness. In fact, both he and Juzi didn't know that the god was only saying it for the sake of saying it. As a god, he couldn't intervene in the lower realm. Unless it involved his daughter, he couldn't easily reveal himself. The Sun Moon Empire army slowly retreated. After a momentary silence, cheers burst out in Star Luo City. It was over. The war was finally over. Earlier, they still thought that they were doomed. But now, they had regained control of their destiny. They had even attained the final victory. It was a miraculous change. Hui Yuhao drifted in mid-air and turned to the White Tiger Duke. The White Tiger Duke was also looking back at him. This iron-blooded marshal was no longer as tough as he was before. The look in his eyes was both gentle and complex. As for the Sun Moon Empire, his hatred towards them had diminished. This was because the emperor of that empire was his own grandson. His grandson was actually in control of the biggest empire in the continent. How magical was that? Let's go back. Hui Yuhao nodded at Dai Hao. He was already a grown-up, and a leading figure of his generation. Tang Wutong's departure left him heartbroken. However, he had many things to deal with right now. He could only search for her after dealing with them. A son, he actually had a son. Apart from Tang Wutong, he was also thinking about Xu Yunhan. As he sighed, Hui Yuhao flew towards the others from the Tang sect. Under Bei Bei's leadership, those from the Tang sect quickly came up to receive Hui Yuhao. Bei Bei opened his arms wide and gave Hui Yuhao a big hug. Apart from Tang Yue, who was holding the fort in the Tang sect, the rest were almost all here. Little Junior, where's Wutong? Where has Wutong gone to? Bei Bei couldn't help but ask after he hugged Hui Yuhao. Hui Yuhao and Tang Wutong had disappeared for 3 years. They had many questions to ask. Hui Yuhao shook his head dejectedly and said, "Something happened earlier. Once we settle things here, I'll look for her. Eldest Senior, Elder Xian, let's return to Star Luo City first." As everyone clustered around them, Hui Yuhao and the White Tiger Duke returned to Star Luo City. This video will end here.